Hey everyone, and welcome to 52, the podcast where we provide tips for success in dating and relationships. We have a great guest today, but before we begin, a quick disclaimer from 52 Inc. The content in this podcast is for entertainment and is not mental health, medical, or personal relationship counseling. It is not a substitute for professional expertise and judgment from a licensed healthcare or mental health professional. You should seek the advice of a qualified professional when seeking mental health or medical advice to obtain a diagnosis or any treatment regarding your mental health or well-being. The content in this podcast may not be applicable to you and your specific situation. Topics discussed in this podcast may include information that may be considered sensitive or emotionally charged to some people, and therefore listener discretion is advised. References to third-party resources are for informational purposes only, and 52 Inc. takes no responsibility for the content of those resources. This podcast is copyrighted 2025 by 52 Inc., all rights reserved. Hey everyone, and welcome back to 52, the podcast where we give you the tips, tools, and mindset to make dating and relationships work for you. I'm Kelly, a technology attorney here in New York.
I'm Rodney Rabbani, marriage and family therapist in Los Angeles, as well as a relationship and dating coach.
And today, we're going to tackle a question submitted by one of our listeners who's single and trying to navigate the often confusing dating world. In answering the question, we're going to provide some tips to help you successfully date and meet your special someone. And joining us today to help us answer the question is a very special guest. She's a single, savvy advertising analyst who knows how to break down the data. And she's bringing that sharp insight to help us answer one of our listeners' submitted questions. So please join me in welcoming Renee. Hey, Renee, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Coming from New York City. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Kel and Ronnie, for having me.
We're so excited to have you here. And for our listeners that are single, grab your coffee or your tea and get ready to learn how to date with intention. And for our listeners that are in a relationship, we hope this helps you to further appreciate your special someone and maintain your relationship. So on that note, Renee and Rodney, are you guys ready to dive in?
Absolutely.
All
Let's
right.
go.
So one of our listeners is a 32-year-old girl in LA. She shares that her best friend went out with a guy, but they broke up. Now, her best friend's ex and her crossed paths recently, and he asked her out. So she said that she felt a connection and is interested in saying yes, but feels guilty and feels like saying yes to him would be backstabbing her friend. So what should she do?
I think the first thing she should do is confront her best friend about it. Tell her best friend how she feels, explain the situation, the encounter, and see how the friend responds. But also, I think be prepared for the friend to kind of not be okay with it. I think kind of going from there. But I think if the friend were to be like, it's not okay with me, it's I think she has to kind of think about if being, best friends with this girl is worth it means more to her than being with this guy that she could possibly have a future with.
Right. That makes sense. Ronnie, what do you think?
I don't know if it was the dating expert here, me or Renee, because that was a really good answer.
I mean, I think that you have to put yourself in the situation, like in the person's shoes kind of thing. And so my whole approach with it is like, how would I kind of handle it if I was in this girl's shoes? I think like the first piece of all of this is like approaching your best friend and being honest with her, because that's like the foundation for the whole thing, I feel
Straight
like.
up.
Also, you never know. She might say, go for it. I feel like you won't know your next step until you have that conversation first with your friend.
I totally agree. I mean, Ronnie, do you think it's okay to ever date your friend's ex? I mean, like, how do you determine if it's a bad idea or?
Listen, it's tough out there right now. So if you connect with someone, everyone is game. There's no holding back. There's like rare cases where you shouldn't do it, but it's tough out there. And if you find someone that you connect with, you should go for it, but in a respectful, kind way. Like Renee said, if this friend means something to you, regardless, I think you should have that conversation and communicate and be honest. So yeah, I agree with her.
I echo what Ronnie said. feel like it is, it's hard dating out there. And I think especially like as you get older, like the pool gets a little bit smaller. And so you also don't want to, miss out on opportunities. And so, you have to also think of yourself. I mean, obviously being respectful of others and thinking about others, but like you also have to like think about yourself and your future and what feels right
Absolutely.
to you in a respectful manner.
Right. And there's always one person for one person. So just because something didn't work out between your friend and the guy doesn't mean he shouldn't work out for another person. It's
Right.
everyone has their person.
One thing I would add is like if this is a fling for you, that changes everything as well. If you really think like you have a connection with this person, go for it. If you think it's just a fling, I would really consider where your priorities are at.
100%. And Rodney, now thinking from the perspective of the friend that's being asked if it's okay, if that friend says no, what should our listener do? And would that friend be justified in any case to say no to her going out with the ex?
I mean, she's justified to say whatever she wants. She has every right to say what she wants. But then you have to consider, the possibilities of how romantically involved do you think you'll get with this person, if there really is a future, how close you are with this friend. I mean, I can't tell you what's the right or wrong decision, but again, it's really hard out there. And my whole thing is, and it might come off a little too harsh or aggressive, like we all have too many friends, but your person doesn't come around too often. I'm not saying you should cut off friendships. Friendships are great. There are people that have too many friends. That's a whole nother conversation. So that's something to consider.
Right. That makes sense. And what advice would you give for our listener for navigating the potential fallout with the friend in case the friend does say no, or in case they say yes, but it's just awkward?
Well, look, first off, I think approaching the situation really matters as well. So
From the beginning, before she goes on a date with the guy.
With the friend. So I wouldn't go in asking. I would go in saying, "Hey, this happened by chance. I'm just as surprised as anyone else, and I really do want to give it a try, and I wanted to let you know beforehand." Not making it a question of like, "Hey, like, do you think I could go out more? Hey, like, I just want to let you know that this is how I feel."
Right.
And I really do want to consider giving it a try. If it's a good friend, a healthy friend, they should say, sure.
Yeah. I mean, Renee, I feel like you think the same way as I do when it comes to this, but correct me if I'm wrong. If I was the friend and someone came up to me and said, "Hey, I really connected with someone you used to go out with, and we bonded or whatever, and I would really like to go out with him," I think, first of all, the mere fact that she came and told me would mean a lot to me. But beyond that, I mean, of course, I would say yes. Like, I don't think it would ever be my place or my position to say no to the friend. And if anything, as a friend, I would want the best for my friends. And I would understand that, like, even though it might like suck or be awkward or whatever, we all at the end of the day have our person.
Listen, it'll be hard for the friend, but I think that a true friend wants their other best friend to be happy, like at the end of the day. And so, like, hell, I'm on the same page as you. Like, if I were the friend and, my best friend came up to me and said, "I'd really, I have a connection with your ex," whatever, it would sting, like, I'm not going to lie. But first of all, I appreciate her honesty and her transparency with me and the fact that she could come up to me and confront me about it and tell me about it as opposed to going behind my back or, that right there is like one step in the right direction. And so I would appreciate that first and foremost. But at the end of the day, as much as it would, hurt, I would also be so happy for her that she found a connection with this person, knowing how hard it was for her to find a connection with somebody, before this. So I think honesty is really important in this situation, and just, being happy for others.
Yeah.
Lucy, there's one other thing to consider. If you're this friend that you want to go out with this ex-boyfriend, and then tomorrow it's another ex-boyfriend, and then a week later it's the other friend's ex-boyfriend. There's a whole other story as well. So like, just because of our conversation, we're saying, hey, if there's something special, there's connection, go for it. Doesn't mean just because you feel like it, you should go out with anyone's friend or ex either, right?
It shouldn't be like because something's forbidden, you should go after it. It
Right.
should be like there's a genuine connection.
You need to really see it through and really take a logical approach and not just from emotion be dating people's exes either. Like, there should be some logic involved in how you want to go about it.
Right. Very helpful, Rodney. Thank you. And that's a wrap on today's episode of 52. So a big thank you to our amazing guest, Renee Levy, for joining us today and helping us break down that tricky dating dilemma. Your insights today as a single and successful advertising analyst really gave us a fresh perspective. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really had so much fun. And I also learned so much. So thank you.
Huge thank you to you, Rodney, for always bringing your expert dating wisdom and giving us so many valuable tips to navigate the modern dating world with confidence and intention. Rodney, before we wrap up, where can our listeners find more of your work and connect with you? I'm sure they'll want to keep following you for more dating advice.
Of course. So I'm on Instagram, Rodney Rabbani, and I share a lot of tips and dating things on my Instagram page. I also have a Facebook group called Question of the Day, which we talk about these issues all the time.
Awesome. Definitely check that out, everyone. And to our listeners, a big shout out to all of you for tuning in. If you have your own dating questions or topics you'd like for us to cover in future episodes, click on the link in the captions and submit your question. We love hearing from you, and who knows, your story might be featured on our next show. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share with your friends, because we all know love is better when it's shared. Remember, whether you're dating, in a relationship, or just figuring it out, 52 is here to help you navigate it all. So until next time, keep your hearts open and your minds clear.